Alrighty, hi guys. Today we're going to talk about ancient China. So the article we're going to read is called Open for Business. Starting with vocabulary, like we usually do. The first vocabulary word I'm going to talk about is civilization, just to make sure when we're talking about civilizations, we know what we're talking about. A civilization is just a society, a human society. So we're going to be talking about how the Chinese traded with other civilizations or human societies. Treacherous. It's just a big word for the word dangerous. Scary, treacherous, not safe. Caravans. So they're not going to drive up in a van like maybe your mom has. A caravan is a group of people traveling together. Okay, usually along the trade routes is what we're going to be talking about in this case. A bandit. A bandit is a robber. So you don't want to get attacked by a bandit because you're probably going to be in trouble and lose everything that's important to you. A merchant. A merchant is a person involved in selling or trading, right? So a merchant could set up a little stand and they could have some fruit or some vegetables or some wheat or some hats, anything. They have a little stand and they're a merchant. They're selling something. Maritime, that's something that's connected by sea. Okay, so when we talk about maritime routes, we're talking about sea routes, okay, as opposed to land routes. And ports. When we talk about a port, in this case, we're talking about a place where a boat can stop and dock, okay? So it's a harbor where a boat can dock and you can get off or take things off the ship, okay? It can connect the sea to the land, the ports do. Okay, let's begin our reading. Open for business. How did the ancient Chinese conduct trade with other civilizations? Ancient China was connected to markets in the West by the Silk Road. Although the name Silk Road suggests a single long road, the Silk Road was actually a series of trade routes that eventually connected ancient China to Central Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. Some of the Silk Road's trade routes were as much as 4,000 miles long, like an ancient highway system. The main overland route began in northern China, where the modern city of Xi'an now sits. From China, the trade routes headed west, with some reaching cities along the Black Sea, others extending to Damascus and other trading centers on the Mediterranean Sea, and still others reaching India. So in this paragraph, all we're talking about is that the main trade route that China used was called the Silk Road. This road was not made of silk. It was not anything fancy. It was really kind of like a dirt road. It was very long and it had very many different routes and it covered a lot of area. It went all the way from China to Central Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. Okay. Some of the routes were 4,000 miles long. That's a lot of miles. Okay. So it's kind of like our highway system. It keeps going and going and going and going and going. Okay. So the main overland route, which means that we're going to go on the land, it began in northern China. Okay. And then the routes went west, and some of them went to the Black Sea, others went to the Mediterranean Sea, others went to India. So the Silk Road didn't just go one direction. You could go lots of different directions to trade with lots of different places. Okay. Next paragraph. The routes crossed treacherous deserts, mountains, and open spaces. Caravans were constantly under threat from thieves and bandits, but towns and trading posts sprang up along the way and provided merchants food, water, shelter when needed. The Great Wall of China also protected Chinese merchants as they traveled the Silk Road. Soldiers stood guard on the wall in China areas and kept an eye out for thieves and bandits. They lit fire or sent up smoke signals to alert travelers of danger. All right. So these Silk Road routes, like I said, it wasn't like a nice, smooth, beautiful road. There was lots of dangerous terrain along the way. There were mountains, there were deserts, there were wide open spaces, right? There were lots of people who came through, and they were called caravans. It was just a group of people coming through to do the trading. So they had to be really careful because there were thieves who were going to try to steal from them, and there were bandits who were going to try to rob from them. So the little towns and the little trading posts where they stopped along the way, they looked out for these merchants or the people who were coming with the goods. They gave them food, water, shelter when needed, okay? There was also the Great Wall of China, which is still there today. It protected the merchants also. So soldiers would stand guard, and if there was danger, they would send off smoke alerts or fire to let them know, let the travelers know, hey, be careful coming forward. There's danger up here. There's thieves. There's bandits. Okay. So they were kind of looking out for each other and helping each other, protecting each other to protect their trade. Okay. What's good for one is good for the other. All right. Next paragraph. Eventually, there was also a maritime Silk Road route. The main sea routes traveled via the South China Sea and the Indian Ocean to the Persian Gulf city of Basra in what is today Iraq, or to the Red Sea seaport of Suez in Egypt. When needed, goods were carried once more overland across Persia and Syria to Alexandria, Egypt, and other ports used by European merchants, rather than sailing all the way around Africa. Okay, so remember, I told you guys at the beginning of this that the Silk Road was just overland or land routes, okay? So eventually there also became a sea route, and we call these the Maritime Silk Road. Maritime just means sea. Okay, so that went from the South China Sea and the Indian Ocean all the way out to the Persian Gulf, okay? So this really increased where we could sail. So sometimes we would go out on a boat and do some trading, and then we might come back using the overland route, depending where we needed to go. That's how it worked, okay? Next paragraph. Not many merchants traveled the entire Silk Road. Land traders usually carried goods from one area to a marketplace in an oasis town. There, they would sell their goods to another trader. This merchant would then bring the goods farther along the route and trade them in a different spot. In this way, goods from China could make it all the way to Europe or another distant location. Okay, so in this paragraph, we're talking about how not one person traveled 4,000 miles. Okay, so if you're traveling 4,000 miles and you have a horse or you have a camel, do you think it's going to take a long time to go that far? Because I think it's going to take a long time to go that far. So they would go to a little town or an oasis, like it's a small area, and they would trade with one merchant. Okay, so now that merchant in the new town has my goods, but they might not necessarily want my goods. They want the goods from the guy in the next town over. So I am going to go back home because I'm finished. I traded my goods. I either got more goods or I got money. And the merchant I sold them to, they're going to go down the road, farther down the Silk Road, and they're going to trade some more. And it's going to continue like that. So no one ever really went 4,000 miles. They just thought they went so far, they traded, that person traveled more and traded farther down. Okay, that's all for this reading. Thanks, guys.